absolutely fine. Okay. Are we ready for the sequel?
Yes.
Jaws v. Jaws. Jaws v. Jaws. Jaws v. Jaws. Jaws v. Jaws. Oh, I'm so excited. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the General Geekery Podcast, the podcast where we react to whatever we geek out about, all that we want to geek out about with no remorse.
No regrets.
And with all of the enthusiasm in the world, if we so choose. If I can remember our own tagline. Sorry, I got caught up in the moment with Jaws.
I should have done it this time.
No, you're good.
I was like listening to you and I was like, what is wrong with him? He's been doing this for 3 years and he doesn't...
I got caught up in the moment, I'm sorry.
A brain fart.
I'm sorry.
Don't apologize, I just think it's funny. That's hilarious, man.
Alright, as always, I am your resident coffee ninja by day, actor, gamer, streamer by night, Donald Kaczynski back once again. Joining me as always with popcorn in hand, our resident video game inept and artiste extraordinaire, Anna Kubiak.
Hello.
And we are on our second episode of James Bond month of 2023. Today, we are reacting to kind of a semi-sequel to a film that one of the films that we watched last year. We are watching Moonraker.
You're a Moonraker!
I don't think that's how the actual song goes, but
no.
we'll go with it. So, Moonraker is, I want to say, the 10th or 11th film in the Bond canon. It's the fourth movie to star Roger Moore as James Bond. What's notable about this one is that this movie has a returning villain from the previous film, The Spy Who Loved Me, which is Richard Keel's Jaws.
I wonder who it is. Yeah.
Jaws proved to be very popular with audiences, so they brought him back, and that's what brings us to this particular film. So we're going to watch and react to it. If you guys are listening or watching to this on the Patreon, you'll get our full reactions on there. However, if you guys are listening to this on Spotify, we will be switching over to the discussion afterwards right now. Alrighty.
Wow.
Well,
that happened.
Yep, that did happen. Alright, that was Moonraker. So, now that we watch all of it, again with the gnomes.
Gnomes!
Yes. So, Hannah, you specifically asked that we watch this one.
Yes, I read the first maybe couple of sentences of the summary on Wikipedia, and I thought, this looks like a trippy, ridiculous, stupid ride. And I was right.
Did you see any of this film before? Okay, all right. So both you and me went in mainly blind. I've only seen like bits and pieces of it. So
yeah, no. I basically my way of choosing was I was like, I really enjoyed The Spy Who Loved Me. I think that the humor of the Roger Moore era is fantastic.
Yes.
So I want to watch another Roger Moore one. So I was like basically reading the summaries of the Roger Moore era movies that I hadn't seen. And I was like, this sounds great.
And then you're like, Jaws is back!
Yes, I saw that Jaws was in it. I saw that the beginning involved like a fight falling from an airplane and falling into a circus tent. And I was like, well, I'm hooked.
Yeah, let's go through that opening scene really quick, because by far, like, we've seen like 6 or 7 like different James Bond films since doing this podcast. Like, in terms of opening sequences, like, that's probably like one of the coolest like opening stunts that they've ever done.
Yeah, pretty good.
Like right up there with the bungee jump, the world's like largest bungee jump, and the skiing fight at the beginning of Spy Who Loved Me.
Oh, how could I forget? That's what that reminded me of. All the yellow spacesuits everybody was wearing.
The ski suit was Bond's ski suit. That's right.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Where are you?
So, for those that haven't seen our reaction to the full movie on the Patreon, you guys can go check that out in the link below to check out our Patreon, and you can get full access to that by helping pledge to the Patreon and helping us do what we do. We appreciate it.
It's about time we started putting actual content on Patreon to incentivize being part of the Patreon.
It's been a rough couple of months, but we're getting there, guys. We're getting there. So now that we've watched it, let's go over the couple of stuff that we went over last time and just
Okay.
reference. So, the Bond, Roger Moore. Absolutely wonderful. I love Roger Moore so much.
I do too.
So, I'll be honest. When I first saw this film, I first got on a huge James Bond kick back in like 2014, 2015 when Craig's fourth film Spectre was coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And me and my good friend Chris, shout out to you, Chris, were getting into like the James Bond movies and everything like that. Both of us were just lambasting Moonraker because we were just so full of ourselves and thinking we were good movie reviewers, something like that.
Oh, you hadn't seen it?
No, I hadn't seen it.
Oh.
I've mellowed out a lot since since I was in college. Like,
Yeah.
not.
I mean, that tends to happen. In college, you kind of think that you know everything, and then you realize, wait a minute.
It's no different than being a teenager.
Yeah,
Basically.
pretty much.
But now that a lot of years have passed and I started watching them through all this for the first time, it's so fun. Like, Roger Moore is the only actor for Bond that could make a film like this work. Because I can't see any other James Bond doing this.
Yeah, like a really sort of quirky, bizarre concept like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, that
I can't.
definitely. Yeah, I can.
Connery could not have pulled this off.
Mhm.
Like, Connery's suave and everything like that, but he doesn't have like that dry
The wit thing.
the dry wit.
Humor.
He has a dry wit and humor and stuff like that. Roger Moore's is more quirky.
Yeah.
Which makes his Bond very distinct out of everyone else. No way that Timothy Dalton's Bond would do this, just because like his is a more grounded, faithful to like the Fleming novels kind of Bond.
Mm-hmm.
Brosnan, maybe, but his is more of like the action man Bond though.
Yeah.
And then Craig's is a little bit closer to like a good mix between both Dalton and Pierce Brosnan.
Mm-hmm.
So again, Moore's the only one that could probably make a movie like this work, and I have to say just perfect. Like, could not have worked with anyone other than Roger Moore.
Yeah. I mean, to the extent that it did work. It was a wacky movie, and by the middle of it, I was kind of like, what the heck is happening?
Yeah, his unique interactions with just, like, his era of Bond, which, by the way, rest in peace to the late, great Bernard Lee. This was his last film portraying Bond's supervisor, M. Did it for 11 movies.
Whoa.
Yeah.
For 3 different Bonds, yeah.
Technically 3 different Bonds because George Lazenby was in between the tenure of Connery. Mm-hmm. So there was that. So from there we move on to the main Bond girl. There were a couple.
I was confused about who was going to end up being the main Bond girl in this one because a lot of random women showed up.
Yeah, there were. That's the thing with like most like Bond films, especially during the 70s and stuff like that. There's just so many of them in just one movie.
Yeah,
so let's.
And they get like eaten by dogs, decapitated by hats.
Okay, the one that was the one from Goldfinger that was decapitated by a hat. She technically wasn't really one.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say she technically wasn't decapitated, which she. Actually, I don't think she was.
No, she wasn't.
But
I think originally she was supposed to, but I mean, whichever. All right, bringing up the. Gotta bring up my notes really quick.
I actually didn't mind Dr. Goodbody, or what's her name?
Goodhead.
Goodhead. Dr. Goodhead. Like, I don't know. The kind of I like a nice independent Bond girl who can take care of herself and kick ass when she needs to, kind of thing.
They usually have that a lot more like post Connery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They do have some in Connery, but even still, like, I know we were talking last episode about Pussy Galore.
Mm-hmm. And she knew judo. She was a pilot.
It was entirely like based on like that entire performance of the actress herself, which I do also have to credit Holly Goodhead's actress for this, which hold on. I'm bringing up the cast list right now.
A few seconds later.
Well, no, I got it right here. Lois Chills. So. Oh, she was in Dallas. I never knew that. Never knew she was in Dallas. So, absolutely great actress. She did really stand out. I really liked her character. So.
Yeah.
Good on you. Good on you. the train the tram car scene when they're hanging in the air. Hold on, James. The thought had occurred to me.
Yep.
They played off each other pretty well.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. And also, yeah, the fact like when they were sort of like fighting the villain or whatever, like fighting Jaws and fighting that guy in the ambulance who had taken them prisoner or whatever. Like she didn't just like cower in a corner like, oh my god, you know. She actually kind of like she did stuff.
I mean, I would assume so. She's a CIA agent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, definitely also like alongside like Agent Triple X from The Spy Who Loved Me, which we saw last year. Like, yeah. Definitely gung ho, willing to get their hands dirty. So good on that. The villain, Mr. Hugo Drax. I think this is a much better villain than the other Roger Moore era villain that we got last time in Stromberg. I at least remember Drax.
Yeah, I actually didn't remember. I remember Jaws more than whoever that guy was in his aquatic palace with his sharks.
I mean, there's a reason why they brought Jaws back, so, you know. So, huge shout out. Michael Lonsdale was the actor who portrayed Drax, and I have to say, well done. Entirely different how they changed him from the novel. In the novel originally, they changed a lot for the film adaptation compared to the novel. There was no space travel in the original Moonraker.
Oh, there wasn't?
No, there was not. Not at all. Drax, originally in the novel, originally was a former Nazi general who escaped persecution by impersonating himself as a British officer who suffered amnesia after being incapacitated in I think it was the Battle of Normandy?
Oh.
Something like that. I've only seen like a brief synopsis of like the Moonraker novel. It's one of the few Bond films I've not read. I said it during our reaction, but the only Bond novels that I read was Casino Royale, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and From Russia with Love. Gotcha. So those are the only three that I have personally read. But yeah, this was like the biggest deviation from the adaptation from the book. Maybe outside of The Spy Who Loved Me, but I went over that last year.
Yeah.
But yeah, Drax was immensely entertaining, and according to Hannah, looked like Peter Dinklage.
I thought it looked like Peter Dinklage just a bit.
I lost it when you said that. I'm like, oh gosh, I can't unsee that now.
Oh.
So yeah, but overly ambitious plan, but at the same time, it's like this is literally Jim Jones in space. Jim Jones in space!
Yep, yeah, that's exactly... have all the people in their matching jumpsuits all lined up with their, like Bond said, like Noah's Ark.
Yep.
2x2.
Yeah, the workers are all dressed like yellow honeybees. All the people that are like the breeders and royalty or something like that are in pure white and everything like that, with the women wearing very, very short skirts. I'm like, what? With the way they were shooting at the angle when one of them was walking down, I'm like, why are you shooting at that angle? Stop shooting at that angle. We don't need to see a skirt.
I didn't even notice.
It was running through my mind. I'm just like, I'm just gonna keep quiet and I'm just gonna like let things play out. Just let it go, Donald. Let it go. But yeah, we might as well get to our main method of enjoyment, one that we were excited, and we mentioned at the beginning of the episode. Jaws, motherfucker! So, if you guys have not listened to our episode last year when we were talking about The Spy Who Loved Me, we loved Jaws. Jaws is a very fan favorite character of the James Bond series. One of the most famous henchmen in all of James Bond, right up there with Oddjob.
Oddjob was fun as well.
Oddjob was fun, but so they brought Richard Kiel back to portray Jaws in Moonraker. Very, very fun interactions. Like we said, the beginning skydiving sequence when he's chasing after Bond, who's skydiving without a parachute and has to defeat the other guy in order to get a parachute. His parachute malfunctions and he's plummeting to his death, but he survives by landing on a circus tent.
Yep.
Man always manages to survive. It's absolutely perfect.
Yes. His life is just one coincidence after another.
I know. Every time. So, he gets hired by Drax, basically last time, except we get introduced to a love interest.
Yeah.
She's never really said outright in the movie, but according to the casting list and the novelization, her name is Dolly. I am still losing it that they fall in love at first sight, and in the background you hear Tchaikovsky's Romeo and Juliet overture song. Pat, editor Donald, play the sound clip of my reaction to it.
Yep. Yeah, I enjoyed that. Like, it may as well. I was like, this movie was just so off the wall that, like, when that happened, I was like, well, this may as well happen. Like,
it was cheesy, but I have to overreact at the cheese in order to help myself get some enjoyment out of it. Because if I just keep it bottled up, like, I'm just like, I'm gonna hate it if I keep it bottled up. I just need to talk about the hilarity out of it to enjoy it.
I loved it. I got to a point with this movie where basically when something like that happened, it just made it better for me.
Was it like a so bad it's good thing?
Yeah, exactly. Where it's like, well, it's kind of officially gone over that line where I'm expecting like amazing stuff I can take seriously. And
right.
Into the realm of, okay, throw all this ridiculous stuff at me now. I'm ready for it. I'm here to laugh now.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of thing. So I consider this movie a comedy, honestly.
It is kind of a comedy. It's like more of a comedy than like anything else in like James Bond. It's kind of like a parody almost onto itself at times. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people are kind of meh about this movie. Mm-hmm. I know at one point I labeled this as like my least favorite James Bond film of all time.
Yeah.
But since I've
never seen it though.
I've only seen it like in bits and pieces, but what I saw originally was enough to be like, I'm done with this. I can't. Mm-hmm. Now that I've seen it in its entirety and like was in the right mindset, it's like just lower the pretentiousness, just enjoy it. And I'm like, this was fun. I wouldn't call it my favorite by any means. I found it to just be a good time.
Yeah, I found it enjoyable, definitely.
It's definitely enjoyable. Also, in terms of like the sound design for the movie, like the music, everything like that, they chose a lot of classical music in this more than any other. Like I noted earlier on when they first introduced Hugo Drax, he was playing Chopin.
Oh, right.
Which I did double check, and he was playing one of his many, many pieces.
Nice.
For those that don't know, Frédéric Chopin was a Polish pianist who was wholly responsible for a lot of some of the most famous piano songs of all time.
Yeah, like Claire de la Lune.
Mm-hmm. Very many not ballads, like nocturnes and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. He does a lot of nocturnes work. It's beautiful. So absolutely love the sound design in this. They really took advantage of a lot of the quieter moments too.
Yeah.
Unlike other like James Bond movies, like they don't like overplay the music.
Yeah. You know, we noticed that about GoldenEye as well. That there were some the fight scene with Oddjob. There wasn't any music.
From Goldfinger. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, Goldfinger. Did I say GoldenEye?
Yeah, you said Gold.
Oh.
We did that a lot last time.
The Man with the Golden Gun.
That's a different Roger Moore film.
Yep.
That's a different Roger Moore film. That one has Christopher Lee.
What?
Yeah.
Next year we're watching that one.
Oh, fair enough.
Oh man.
So yeah. This film, it was a lot of fun. I don't know if I would recommend this as like quintessential James Bond.
No, I'd say that if you've watched some James Bond movies and you already know kind of what James Bond is about, then you can watch this one and appreciate it as sort of a offshoot of
Yeah.
an offshoot of the franchise, kind of.
I still maintain that The Spy Who Loved Me is, my opinion, the best film in the Moore era.
It's my favorite so far out of the ones I've seen. Yeah.
Like for any film that basically describes like each particular like actor James Bond, Spy Who Loved Me absolutely is the best representation of Moore's iteration of James Bond. Mm-hmm. That carries over into Moonraker to an extent, but this movie again plays into like the silliness of that era, which for the next film, For Your Eyes Only, which I have seen, kind of downplays a little bit. It takes a bit more seriousness. Moore is still his fantastic self, but
that's the next one, right?
That was the next one that was
coming up. Oh, that's the one that you chose?
No, that's not the one that I chose. I chose License to Kill.
Oh,
next,
gotcha.
Which is the second film from Dalton's.
Oh,
because we haven't watched.
We haven't seen any Dalton.
We have not. We'll get to that when we get to License to Kill, but I lost my train of thought. But a couple of things about this film. We do not. This is the last time that we see Jaws in the films. Mm-hmm. Richard Kiel will reprise Jaws for one of the James Bond games, if I'm not mistaken.
Whoa.
They were originally going to bring him back for one more movie, but I think the deal fell through. Either Kiel was too busy, negotiations fell through, but I gotta say, I'm gonna miss Jaws.
Yeah.
I wish we had more of him.
Yeah, me too.
That's kind of like one thing that was always missing from like the classic Bond films, like before Brosnan, was just the sense of like recurring characters that wasn't just like MI6 personnel or stuff like that.
Right. Yeah.
Because of course MI6 you always had MQ, everything like that. Which this might be one of my favorite Q lines ever.
Oh gosh.
Right at the end.
Yeah.
I forgot what he said.
They said, what is he doing? He's like, I believe he's attempting re-entry.
Oh.
As they're doing the do in Zero Gravity.
I mean, one, you're not going to have a chance like that ever in your life.
No.
And two, I mean, it's what Bond does.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like it's basically the space version of the ending scene from The Spy Who Loved Me.
Yep. Actually, yeah.
Oh, James. 007, what are you doing? Keeping the British end up, sir.
Yep.
Oh, well, fantastic.
At least it was consensual this time.
Compared to last one?
Compared to last time.
Yeah.
It really bothered me.
Oh, I understand why. I understand why.
Like, okay, so he forces himself on you and you're still okay with it, apparently. Even though up until that point you were, like, blowing him off.
Right.
Like, yep.
And I completely understand why you would think, like, no. I'm like, yeah, I am with you on that. Very no, thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you. No, not anything. But, yeah, they smooth that out a lot during the Moore era, especially.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this was a lot of fun. I've completely changed my mind about how I originally felt about this film from like years ago.
Yes, there are merits to it.
There are merits to it. I won't exactly call it like a good movie. There were points of it where we were losing track. We're like, wait, what happened to this character? Wait, where did this go? Wait, I just realized that Dr. Goodhead had been still taken, and we just like completely forgot. Mm-hmm. But it was... The movie kept us entertained. It wasn't boring by any means.
No, it wasn't boring.
It wasn't boring by, like, any stretch of the imagination. Like, I can think of, like, much more boring films in the franchise. So, congratulations on that. That was really well done. So, yeah, I would recommend giving Moonraker a good watch. I wouldn't, like I said, I wouldn't exactly call it a best representation of the Moore era in general. But that's that. Oh, any favorite scenes from this movie?
Favorite scenes?
Favorite stunts, stuff like that, things that like stood out for you?
I just really enjoyed Jaws and Dolly just because it was ridiculous. And she was kind of cute too.
It was so sweet.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, look at these two weirdos who found each other.
Okay, this is gonna sound really stupid. I thought for a moment, in the back of my head, I was imagining the scene from Matilda where the principal woman grabbed the little girl by the pigtails and just yeets her around like she's
oh my gosh.
she's like the hammer thing from like they do at the Olympics.
Right, yeah. Oh man. No, that thought never occurred to me.
I don't know why, but every time I saw the pigtails of the bows, I'm like, why am I thinking of this scene from Matilda? Why? Why does my brain do this?
Well, our brains do strange things in times of extreme insanity.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Absolutely fair enough.
I did often, do you ever just like look at your life when you're in the middle of it and think, how did I get here? What the hell am I doing?
Every day of my life.
I had this experience while watching Moonraker. I was sort of like I had that experience. I had that experience when I was I don't remember what the episode is called, but that episode of Supernatural where they get trapped in a TV and have to do all sorts of TV shows and stuff, like the game show called Nutcracker. I was like watching it and I was like, wait a minute. What am I doing with my life right now? Like, I'm not upset, but I'm just also like...
Yeah.
What?
I had that same kind of experience with that episode when Sam looks directly at the camera like it's a fake commercial and says, I've got genital herpes.
I've got genital herpes. I tried to be careful. Boy, did I try.
Oy vey.
I am slightly lessening the chances of passing it on. At that point too, yeah, I was like, what is my life right now? What the hell is happening?
What are the choices that led me to this moment in time that
Yes.
I'm looking at this just thinking,
What are the choices that led me
what the hell?
to watching this at 4 a.m?
I've definitely had that. I've definitely had that, like sitting up, like watching like YouTube videos and stuff like that. It's like,
Yep.
why am I watching this at 5 a.m?
Yes.
I gotta go to work at 7.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, what?
I got work in 2 hours. I haven't gone to
What's
sleep.
wrong with me? Yeah, exactly. You're just like I am an adult, allegedly. Yeah.
But that's the kind of experience that we had with Moonraker.
Yep, that's the kind of experience where you're watching it and you're like, I'm not mad that I'm here. I am puzzled, however, about how this came to be.
I mean, it was entertaining, but it doesn't like fully engross you into the story that something like how Casino Royale or GoldenEye.
Yeah, it's not to be taken seriously by any means,
Right. It's Bond at its silliest, and the audience reaction would kind of mirror that as well. Originally, For Your Eyes Only was supposed to come out before Moonraker, but the success of Star Wars kind of pushed Ian Productions.
Oh, that's right. For like, it's like having some sort of sci-fi thing happening, right?
Yeah, like mid 70s, late 70s was like literally sci-fi was everything.
Yeah.
Like from that point, because Star Wars basically changed cinema.
Yeah.
It was the blockbuster of all blockbusters. It was the one that really brought sci-fi back into like more of a cultural collectivist limelight. I mean, sure, Star Trek and everything like that was still on reruns and everything like that. You had Buck Rogers as well, but at the same time...
Yeah. Well, when you think about it, and this is a completely different discussion altogether, when you think about it, Star Wars is actually more of a fantasy than a science fiction. There's like magic and spiritualism, and it just happens to take place in space. But yeah, like the whole stuff happening in space idea was definitely very very popular.
Yeah, it originally started. It is basically like a fantasy film given science fiction makeup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And because of the success of that, and of course, like the 70s was like influenced by like the space race of like the 60s of like man landing on the moon in 1969, and then going on from there. And yep, you can definitely tell by Moonraker like how much Star Wars influenced it, especially by the laser space battle at the end. Mm-hmm. I don't know why I was so upset when we were originally watching it.
Were you?
Yeah, I sounded upset. If I go back to the recording, I probably did sound very upset. But I'm like, why am I taking this so seriously? Just let it go, Donald.
I thought it was hilarious.
Oh, it's hilarious!
People like just floating around with the lasers.
Oh wait, I remember. I remember. Like I could buy into the fact that the Drax people, Drax's cult, had lasers and stuff like that. But earlier on, like, Q Branch was already developing like a space laser kind of thing, and I'm like, oh, okay, fair enough. And then the Americans had it. I'm like, freaking how? You were only just testing it at Q Branch. How did you mass produce this crap?
How did the Americans get it?
Dang it, America.
Oh. Well, I enjoyed myself.
I enjoyed myself too, but at the same time, I just have to like laugh at my own like just anger and stupidity. I'm like, how? Why? And so next time we are going to be watching a much different James Bond movie. More different than the previous two that we've had, because we're going to be watching a film of one of a lot of people consider like the most close to like Ian Fleming's original novel of James Bond's character.
Okay.
And one of my favorite British actors of all time in the form of Timothy Dalton. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
All right. I look forward to it.
So next time we are going to be watching License to Kill, the theme sung by one of my favorite soul artists of all time. Shout out to you, Gladys Knight. Love you. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. If you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, and wherever podcasts can be found. If you are watching this reaction on the Patreon, we greatly appreciate your patronage. Thank you so much. If you guys want to support us and everything that we do related to the General Geekery podcast, including reaction content, as well as Nepticon and everything else in between, please consider pledging to our Patreon at patreon.com/generalgeekery if that is a little bit too much of a commitment to you. We also have a coffee that you guys can give some spare change if you so choose. Every bit helps, and we greatly appreciate it. And if you guys want to follow us in all of our social media stuff, please check out the links in the description of this episode and everything else that we do, including my personal Twitch channel where I stream a couple times every week. Our escapades on the Loaded Dice Adventures on Mondays and Wednesdays, and all of the good stuff as well on Hannah's DeviantArt, and I lost track. Sorry about that, guys.
Dolman Bright, the DeviantArt.
Dolman Bright on the DeviantArt.
Dolman Bright.
So, yeah, that has been this episode of General Geekery, talking all about Moonraker and our reactions to it. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Hannah, any closing thoughts before we sign off?
No. Nothing. I've said it all.
All right, fair enough. For Hannah, I'm Donald. Until next time, guys, watch out for burning up on re-entry. Always keep the British end up. Looking at you, Roger Moore. And always remember to keep your geek on. Always. Clink, clink.
Clink, clink.
Farewell.
Where are you? Unfortunately, that is the only part of that song that I remember. Still not as memorable.